How's it going, Dopamon fans? The NHL trade deadline is 6 weeks away, and the trade rumors are heating up, led by John Klingberg, who, as announced by TSN insider Pierre LeBrun, has submitted a 10-team approved trade list to the Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah, John Klingberg, he's going to be one of the bigger trade pieces in this upcoming trade deadline. 30-year-old right shot defenseman. He's 6'3". He's more of an offensive guy historically than a defensive guy, but in the playoffs, always seems to perform well. And had 21 points in 26 games for the Dallas Stars in their run to the Cup a few years ago. So he could be a very, very important piece for a team. In his career, he has 387 points in 588 games. So he's the offensive guy. He's the guy that's going to run your power play, and isn't doing well in Anaheim this season because the Anaheim Ducks are not good. 36 games, he only has 13 points. But like I said, he signed in Anaheim to get traded at the deadline in the offseason. So we'll see where he ends up.
Yeah, that's why he signed a 1-year deal, and that contract had a no trade clause which ended January 1st of this year, which means that he was quick to submit a list of 10 teams, and I think that it means it's likely for a trade to come quick as well. Anaheim is in a position to tank for Bedard, and I think that making a move sooner to, kind of make your team worse, as it were, and gives them the chance to get that first overall pick. But
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
but a move to which team? Obviously, Klingberg wants to move to a cup contender, but that team also needs to have a little bit of cap space, don't they?
Yeah, and to be honest, there's not a lot of contending teams that have a lot of cap space. And that's just the nature of the NHL these days. But there are a couple options here, and then of course you can send salary back and try to make it work. And of course, Anaheim can also retain half of his salary to make his $7 million cap hit a little more manageable at 3.5 or so. Yeah, so there's not very many teams, but we're gonna go over a couple in this video.
And of course, that's, teams looking for offense, but what about what Anaheim needs? We've been discussing this. Obviously, they're, still bottom of the league in goals for. So, what do you think Anaheim's going to be asking for?
I think at minimum you need a first round pick for John Klingberg, and depending on the team and the circumstance and how high that pick is going to be, I think you should also be asking for maybe a B-level prospect or a player as well. And this is just in a trade that's just for John Klingberg. Anaheim obviously has a couple more pieces that teams may or may not want for a Stanley Cup run. A guy like Frank Vetrano comes to mind, but he's on a longer contract, so it might be make it more difficult. But we had this discussion, not kind of off camera here, and in a draft like this one, this upcoming 2023 NHL draft has the potential of being a rival to the 2015 and 2003 drafts, which are highly considered to be the best drafts ever. 2023, I think, has a real shot in a few years of looking back at it and seeing, wow, a lot of these guys turned out to be, superstars. So having even a late first, you could accidentally run into a guy that, it is an all-star for you in a couple years. So I think a first-round pick is what they should be aiming for if you're Anaheim. But
Yeah,
I think you said you had a different opinion on this.
I completely agree. I think that the first round pick is just like an easy kind of, answer. What do you want for him? First round pick, of course. But I don't think it's completely necessary for the team. They do have, since they're tanking, they're going to get a top 4 pick. A team beats them for the lottery. They're still top 3. They end up with a top 4. Like, the way it works out, they're going to end up with, Matvei Michkov, Adam Fantilli, Leo Carlson, maybe Connor Bedard. That's who they're after. But they have that pick. So if they're worried about, getting a superstar in this draft, they have one already. And they also have 3 second-round picks in this draft. I think that if they want to make a move up, they can. I think, just for right now, they need young prospects, because Anaheim already has, not a significant, but they do have a core of young prospects just outside of the NHL. Guys like Jacob Perreault, Olin Zellweger, Pavel Mintyukov, Nathan Gaucher, Sasha Pastujov, Tristan Leno, Noah Warren. We got a really long list here of names that can join Zegras and McTavish really, really, really soon and turn this team into just, these loose pieces into like a cohesive team. And I think if they add, another prospect or two with a trade like this, that's an easy sign and trade. Get a nice prospect that in 5 to 10 years you're looking back and saying, wow, what a, one small sign, one small trade, and you have a guy who's, your top 6 forward or top 4D for a long time. And I think that a trade like this could bring a guy into the system, and that Anaheim's ready. They have a guy like Zegras and McTavish who are, really good and ready to kind of lead, help lead a team of youngsters, and they're only a trade or two away if they add a few more pieces. If these young future stars step up, I don't think they're far away. I think a first round pick to future, for them. So I think that an option would be a prospect. I think it would be a good one.
Yeah, and it depends on obviously the prospect and the situation. So we can go through a couple names. I have a specific trade in mind. I don't know if you want me to lead with
Go for it.
Or if you have something you want to lead with. But I like John Klingberg to the Edmonton Oilers. The Edmonton Oilers need a little bit of help on defense. They have a weird kind of defensive, cohesion this year. It's missing a piece, and I think John Klingberg could be a good guy to fit there. And a guy who could be going the other way, and I still have high hopes for him, is Jesse Puljujarvi. Puljujarvi, I think, is done in Edmonton. Whatever you think of Puljujarvi, if you think he's a bust or you think he's still got some potential, I think he's done in Edmonton. So I have Puljujarvi going the other way. That basically washes your salary cap on each side. There's a difference of $500,000. And then I also think you could be needing an addition of a first-round pick or a second-round pick or just another asset, because Puljujarvi is not a sure thing. He's almost a pseudo cap dump at this point. So I think my trade proposal was Puljujarvi and a first for Klingberg. What do you think of that?
I like it. I think Anaheim absolutely needs what I just call a guy.
And he's
a guy.
Great definition.
And he's just the guy, Is he, he isn't the best. He's just, a guy who's been kind of touted as a bottom 6, pushed in and he just finds his team, he clicks, he becomes a 20-goal scorer. They need, their guy. He's the guy. Mm-hmm. I think they need that. I do worry that makes them good as a team, and they can't tank as easily. Oops, he's scoring. Now we have a top 6 and we're winning all of a sudden, but
he's gonna pull a Colin Green.
Yeah.
Leafs,
yeah, but I think that, if it works and that actually does change the future, then good kind of good problem to have. That oops, okay, we don't tank for Bedard, but now we're a winning team. Oh no, we're winning.
I think he's a great guy to kind of fit the needs of both of our opinions or whatever here. He's not too future, like you said. A first-round pick might be too in the future for Anaheim. He's 24 years old at this point. He's not a kid. He's an NHL player, I think, at the very least, and is also, a decent guy for Anaheim to kind of roll the dice on. I think it kind of fits on both sides.
And I have a couple of different trade proposals as well, just because, I thought about prospects. I figured there are quite a few different prospects out there. I thought to Winnipeg. I thought John Klingberg, half retained, of course, for a prospect like Danny Zilkin or Elias Salamonson. I think Klingberg, he absolutely is worth a first. I think teams are going to want to try and argue a second and, kind of like the sweetener, if that were the thing. I can totally get it, but a guy like Zilkin, he could have been a first round pick. I think he kind of has that kind of same value to as Klingberg at half retained. He's a good prospect that I think that would be tough for Winnipeg to give up, but they do have centers like Brad Lambert and Chaz Lucius, and maybe a prospect like Danny Zilkin as like a third center is just not necessary. They can risk giving him up and boost their offensive D prowess going into the playoffs. I also think a team like Washington, they also have the cap space. Maybe a prospect like Vincent Iorio, Ryan Chesley, Alexei Protas. Who knows? They also, I think that they're missing John Carlson right now, and they could really use a guy like Klingberg to step up offensively on the back end. And the last team,
I'm gonna cut you off before you go on your last team here, because I'm gonna throw some ideas in for. Okay. So on Winnipeg's side of things, I understand more than Washington's. Winnipeg their decor is being heavily fronted by Josh Morrissey, and he needs some friggin' help. Washington at least I think has Carlson waiting in the wings. They've been injured all year. They're just now starting to get healthy. I don't know if you necessarily need a Klingberg on that team, especially where they are and they're kind of weird pseudo, are we competing, do they even want to give up a pick? They might miss the playoffs, and that pick ends up to be the 11th overall.
Well, that's why I have them given up a prospect, no pick. Yeah.
Okay.
It's obviously the risk of a prospect, but sure. If they're willing to make a push, if this is it, if they're worried about their offense on the back end, I think Klingberg's a good option.
Yeah, I think he fits better on Winnipeg. Is what I think I was getting at. But anyway, continue.
And the third team, the LA Kings. I think they could be. They're another team. They have the cap space as well. That's important. That they don't have to give up roster players in their pursuit for improvement, and that they could just give up a prospect like Helge Grans or Jordan Spence. I know they're both really good, maybe even Samuel Helenius, if Anaheim adds maybe a little bit of a sweetener, like a pick or a player like Vetrano or Max Jones or something, for instance, just to help bolster the Kings. I think that the Kings, they're a team that's come out of their rebuild flying hot, and they're ready to be buyers at the trade deadline. So.
Yeah, I really like that idea of the Kings. The Kings have a surplus of young talent to throw prospects around at people. And unlike, I think, Washington or Winnipeg or even Edmonton, LA might be a good fit for Klingberg long term. Because he is a rental. He's a pure rental. He's a 1 year left. And if he goes to LA, he might be a decent guy for them to hold on to if he performs. They have Drew Doughty signed long term, but other than that, they have not their like a good number 2 defenseman. They have a couple guys who are good, but no one who can really step up if say Drew Doughty gets hurt. So I think that could be an interesting fit long term as well.
And I know Doughty's had a huge bounce back in his career, but there's still always a question mark. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. And LA Kings, I definitely think they could be a sign and a trade and sign. I mean, he could definitely fit there long term. Klingberg is still young, 30 years old. Isn't it's old by NHL standards, but he's still got enough 4 to 5 years.
He's got a few years
long
left.
Of really good years on him. He'll be a good performer in the playoffs to any of these teams.
If he could sign him to a 5-year deal at $7 or $8 million, and I think get away with that. Might be kind of rough toward the end, but. I think he's still got a lot of offensive talent left in him, and a team like LA who's going to be competing for cups, I think, in the next few years, might be a cool trade for them.
And that is all for this one. That is our John Klingberg trade saga and our commentary on it.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Where do you guys think John Klingberg is going? Do you think he's going anywhere? There's some people I've hearing saying that he's just going to stay in Anaheim, and I really don't agree with that. But let us know what you think in the comment section down below. Leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you want to hang out with us and talk more hockey. Until next time, peace.